Following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFangy coming to you with what will hopefully be a quick and successful review, and today we're going to be taking a look at one of the more anticipated figures of the Transformers Studio Series line, and it is Transformers Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Autobot Brawn. So yes, this is the latest figure of the small Autobot Bruiser Brawn appeared in the Transformers Generation 1 film, which is one of the reasons why this new deluxe class figure based directly on his Generation 1 version was released in the Transformers Studio Series 86 line. Brawn is the 22nd figure to be released under the Studio Series 86 banner, and I can't believe there's that many figures that have been released in this line. For those of you with a keen eye who are wondering why in the world is Brawn's box beat up so badly, that's because I got this copy of Brawn off of Amazon, and apparently the disclaimer on Amazon was that while this figure was being pulled out of the manufacturer's box, something heavy fell on top of it and squished the box. But the Brawn figure inside isn't damaged, so I was able to get Brawn at a discount price, $3 off retail price. So that's one of the reasons why I got this guy, and also because of the fact that it was the only copy of Brawn that was available at Amazon the day I bought him. Brand new copies of Brawn were sold out, and I believe they are still sold out due to Brawn being such a highly sought after Transformers figure right now. But he has been popping up at Walmart stores in decent numbers. And I think he's just barely started to show up at Target stores, and of course he's available on other websites on the internet. So if you can't find Brawn at Amazon.com, I'm sure he'll pop up soon enough at some other resource where you can find him. So yeah, some nice artwork of Brawn here on the front of the box. You've got this figure here on the side. And you got the same artwork here on this side of the box. And again, this box was crushed when Amazon was unboxing it. So the box itself is in pretty bad shape, but Brawn himself is fully intact according to Amazon's disclaimer. Down here in the back of the box, you've got the product photos. You've got robot mode. You've got alt mode, and Brawn transforms back and forth between both modes in just 23 steps. And he's got a backdrop of the scene featured where he was featured in the Transformers Generation 1 movie when he's flying on board the Autobot shuttle that gets attacked by the Decepticons. And infamously, Brawn was the first character in the Transformers Generation 1 movie who died. He took a shot to the shoulder and was knocked down. And that's one thing that a lot of Transformers fans have been disappointed about over the years is that a blast to the shoulder is what brought Brawn down and defeated him. But due to an animation error during the third season of the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon, I forgot the title of the episode, but during an episode of Season 3 of the G1 cartoon, Brawn appears alive and well amongst a group of Autobots fighting the Decepticons. So because of that animation error, there's a fan theory that Brawn didn't actually die. He survived the blast to the shoulder, and that he was just knocked unconscious, and that by the time he regained consciousness, either the Decepticons had abandoned the shuttle after it had crashed, or he regained consciousness while the Decepticons were still on board, and he just played possum and pretended to be dead. And so, yeah, it's a nice fan theory. I've always accepted that Brawn actually survived the movie, and that the animation error in Season 3 was just confirmation that he did in fact survive. Another reason why a lot of Transformers fans are disappointed that it was a blast to the shoulder that defeated Brawn was that he survived similar blasts in episodes of the first two seasons of the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon. And so for fans who believe that Brawn did die in the movie, that the blast to the shoulder was basically Brawn's weak spot. It was his Achilles heel. That a blast to that particular shoulder was what could stop him. But I think that theory is nonsense. I accept the theory that he survived. Alright, so coming on here, the back of the box, his one-sentence bio reads, "In an effort to protect the crew, Brawn is the first to act when the Decepticons attack the Autobot shuttle." So yeah, that's pretty much Brawn's screen time in the movie. It says big screen inspired here on the back. And that's one thing that a lot of Transformers fans and collectors pointed out about Brawn when his action figure was first released. In his robot mode, it is fairly cartoon accurate, but when you come here to the alt mode, and it applies to the robot mode of sorts, unlike the other mini-bots we've gotten in deluxe class size so far, such as Cliffjumper, Bumblebee, Huffer, Pipes, Warpath, Hubcap, Beachcomber, who was released just before Brawn was unlike the other deluxe class mini-bots we've gotten so far, whose alternate modes aren't entirely accurate to the characters' appearances in the G1 cartoon or the Generation 1 action figures. They're just stylized versions of the alt modes that they have. With Studio Series Brawn, his vehicle mode is inspired by his original Generation 1 action figure through and through. With some of the other deluxe mini-bots, such as Cliffjumper and Bumblebee and Hubcap. Bumblebee, who was released in the Netflix line back in 2020, his alt mode being based off actual sports car. It's based more on his appearance. It has more of a real life appearance to the vehicle mode, and then with the other mini bots such as Warpath, Huffer, and Pipes, their vehicle modes are inspired by the G1 cartoon episodes that they appeared in. But with Brawn's vehicle mode, it's based more of his Generation 1 action figure than his appearance in the cartoon. It's been a while since I've seen clips of the G1 cartoon that feature Brawn on, but yeah, that's been the general attitude with the Studio Series 86 Brawn figure, is that more than the other deluxe mini-bots, his inspiration, while it is based partially on the G1 movie, he's more of an update to the original Generation 1 action figure than his G1 cartoon animation model created by Sunbow Productions. But that's not entirely true, because if he was entirely accurate to his Generation 1 action figure, he wouldn't have the actual head sculpt that Sunbow Productions gave him. But that's just the overall opinion I've seen other Transformers fans and collectors say. Me personally, I don't care. I'm just thrilled to finally have a deluxe class figure based off of Generation 1 Brawn. Brawn was given a deluxe class figure in the Studio Series Bumblebee movie line a year ago in 2022. So to have a G1 version of Brawn released just a year after that figure was released is really exciting to see. It was Bumblebee movie Brawn released in 2021. So wow, it's been 2 years since that figure was released. Without further delay, let's hurry up and get Brawn out of box that's already beyond repair, and let's take a close look at him in his robot mode. Alright, and so here is Studio Series 86 Brawn out of the box. I am pleased to see that, unlike the box itself, Amazon's disclaimer was correct. The figure itself is undamaged. That said, one gripe that I have with this copy of Brawn is that right here on this shoulder joint, there's a stress mark right there. I don't know if anyone else has had that problem with Studio Series A6 Brawn of stress marks appearing on top of the shoulder joints. So that is discouraging to see, but apart from that, I'm pleased to see that he's otherwise undamaged. One thing to note about Brawn is that right out of the box, he's slightly mistransformed. This back panel section is actually supposed to be flipped up all the way like that. Unfortunately, there's no way of making the backpack sit up higher. If they had designed the hinge joint holding it in place to maybe slide up farther, then I think it would be alright, but where it's positioned right now, the backpack unfortunately does get in the way of some of Brawn's articulation, such as in his waist, but that's just a minor nitpick because I'm just really thrilled with how Brawn turned out. Here's a close-up of his head sculpt. It's very nice. It's nice. Looks almost like the Marvel villain character of Juggernaut. It's almost like I didn't want to say Darth Vader's helmet, but it looks very interesting. I don't know of any other Transformers characters that have a head sculpt like Brawn, so that is something unique about him. I do love that he has. They try to give him like a neutral expression on him, but it looks like he's frowning slightly. Especially with the way his eyes are positioned, it looks almost like Brawn is frowning. He didn't really necessarily. He wasn't necessarily grumpy like Gears was all the time, but it's just fun to see that. But I love that Brawn, his head and his torso are slightly large, and then his arms and legs are slightly small, so it gives him somewhat of a stocky appearance for his robot mode, where he's small but muscular, and that's how Brawn lives up to his name. One thing to note about Brawn is that it's not like the characters of the Dinobots where they're all muscle and no brain. Brawn is a smart Autobot, and he knows how to talk in complete sentences, so it's not that he lives up to his name by being all brawn and no brain. And Brawn is a smart and intelligent Autobot. But that said, for the amount of brains that he has, Brawn has even more muscle to power it. So, yeah, Brawn is a force to be reckoned with, and he's proof that it doesn't matter if you're small, as long as you have enough muscle to back up your brain power, then you can be a threat to any of your enemies, even if they are twice your size. So, yeah, that's a nice thing to note about Brawn. One minor nitpick: I wish they would have made the Autobot symbol on his chest. I wish they would have given it a white outline. But at least you can see it here. Due to it being on an orange, the yellow-orange paint used with Brawn, and that's one thing to note. The only parts of Brawn that are yellowish orange that are actual plastic are the joints here on the top of his hips, his pelvis, and these these transformation hinges on his knees. Those are orange plastic, but Brawn's torso is actually orange paint. And so that's a little discouraging to see. It's the same thing with the gray on his helmet, and just like the silver, it's all paint there. Same thing with the silver on his lower arms, that's all paint. I believe it's the same green plastic used on the upper half of the arms. So that's a little discouraging to see that, but I can overlook it due to just how excited I am to finally have a deluxe class figure based off of Generation 1 Brawn. So for articulation, his head can turn side to side, but the head articulation is rendered almost useless due to the very tiny, minute amount of clearance space on the back of it with his back panel section. And right out of the box, the head is really stiff, so I don't want to loosen it up here. But the arms can have the potential to go forward and backward 360 degrees. Swivel joint in the bicep, hinged elbows. No wrist articulation due to how the hands fold into the interior of the arm when you transform Brawn into his alt mode. The waist can spin 360 degrees, but to get the legs to fully turn around, you do have to bring the backpack as far back as you can. And the legs can go forward that far. And unfortunately, because the backpack is here, the legs can only go forward this far because the kibble on the back half of the lower leg hits the bottom hinge joint. And even when you try and straighten it out, that's pretty much the only back leg movement that Brawn has. So you do have to, unfortunately, if you want to give full articulation of Brawn's legs, remove his backpack. But that can be easily overlooked. Legs can go out this far if you can get the arms out of the way, so Brawn can do a full splits if you want to see him do that. That swivel joint in the thigh. Hinge joint in the knees, and you do have ankle rockers there, and then due to transformation, both the foot and the heel spur can bend down if you want. So yeah, a lot of articulation here with Brawn. And then one thing you can do, some collectors have I've seen people point this out in some reviews already, but if you want to make Brawn look like even more like his Generation 1 action figure, then here you can use the transformation joints in his legs and extend them out down here. And this is how the Generation 1 Brawn's original Generation 1 action figure more or less transformed. This is Brawn in his Generation 1 robot mode. The entire side sections with the wheels of his vehicle mode would just flip around 180 degrees and form his legs. So the fact that with the modern engineering, you can now take them and fold them up like this and give him the legs that Sumbo Productions used for his animation model in the cartoon is really nice to see there. I've seen some collectors say that they hate the vertical gap here on the lower half of Brawn's legs, but I can easily overlook it. So for some quick size comparisons, here is Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Brawn with the previously released Chug figure of Brawn that was released by Hasbro. This is the Titans Return Legends Class Brawn figure that was released back in 2016. And at the time, the mini-bots were being released in the Legends class. It's now called Core class, 3-inch sized, 3-inch height sized action figures. So now that we're getting them in the deluxe class size, granted they're small deluxes, a lot of collectors have said that the Studio Series 86 Brawn puts the Titans Return Brawn figure to shame, and I can kind of see why they're saying that. I've been saying that, in my opinion, this is now become the best Brawn figure that's ever been made. And one nice thing that it does at any rate over the Titans Return figure is that he actually has a laser gun weapon. Titans Return Brawn, his one weapon was that the spare tire on the roof of his vehicle mode can detach, and he can use the 3 floodlights on the front as laser pods. So yeah, this is definitely a much better Brawn figure than this one is. I kind of wish this one was the darker shade of green used on here. This is the shade of green that was used on Brawn in the Generation 1 comic books. Books where it was this darker green versus this olive brownish green. And that was based off of his G1 figure that Sunbow Productions used. But yeah, I'm just really excited to now have Brawn in deluxe class size. I've always viewed Brawn because of how muscular he's supposed to be. I've always viewed Brawn as being one of the larger of the mini-bots. So it's great to finally see him in deluxe class size. Brawn, unfortunately, is one of those Transformers characters where Hasbro hasn't used him too often, and I believe the Generation 1 cartoon is Brawn's only appearance in Transformers media apart from the comic books. If he did appear in the Bumblebee movie, I don't know, because unfortunately I have to admit that I haven't watched the Bumblebee movie, but as far as appearing in the cartoon shows, Generation 1 is the only cartoon show that Brawn has appeared in. Whether or not he'll appear in a more modern Transformers cartoon someday is uncertain. But yeah, Brawn, I said this in my review of Beachcomber, but just like Beachcomber, Brawn is one of those Transformers characters where action figures of him that have been released over the years have been far few in between, and I can actually count on using the fingers on my hands how many action figures of Brawn have not only been released, but ones that I have in my Transformers collection. So that being said, one thing that Brawn does have is that he has always been mold mates with another Transformers character of the Minibot Outback. And so for one last size comparison, here is Brawn next to Outback, who is a repaint and retool of Titans Return Brawn. And so I'm really hoping that just like these Legends class figures from the Titans Return and Power of the Prime's lines, that Studio Series 86 Brawn gets repainted into Outback. Outback didn't actually have this laser gun. I got that off of Combiner Wars Huffer. But yeah, there's Brawn next to the most recent figure of the Autobot that he's mold mates with, which is Outback from Power of the Primes. So, I really hope that this figure gets retooled into Outback, even if it gets released in the Generation Selects line. And I really hope that it happens. So without further delay, let's get Brawn transformed into his alt mode and wrap up the review. Alright, so here is Brawn transformed into his alt mode. It's a nice little off-road Jeep SUVs type vehicle, and I'm really thrilled with how accurate it is to his Generation 1 action figure. So you got the entire front grille section painted in silver, you got the front middle section of the bumper painted orange. Why they did that, I don't know. Oh, you got some light bluish gray on the front windshield and all of the side windows. But unfortunately, the back window is unpainted, so that's a real shame that it's unpainted, especially considering that they actually sculpted in a back windshield wiper for the back window, so why that's unpainted is uncertain. You got a sculpted in fuel tank back here. I believe that was found on the original Brawn action figure. The wheels do spin fairly well. I believe they are entirely new sculpted wheels, but the design of them being pegged on like this, that was seen on Earthrise Hoist. But yeah, really thrilled with how with Brawn turned out. Even though he's supposed to be, I believe, an off-road type SUV Jeep vehicle, Like most of the other deluxe class minibots that have been released, the clearance space between the wheels and the rest of the kibble of his robot mode, there's like only like a fraction of an inch difference there between. So Brawn is only going to be able to drive smoothly on flat surfaces. But apart from that, I'm just really thrilled with how the vehicle turned out. And unfortunately, the only place to store Brawn's laser gun is right here on the roof on top of the spare tire, like that. The tire itself is detachable, but I don't think that you can use it like an actual spare tire where you can replace one of the wheels with this one on here, because it's the only tire that has a 5mm peg sculpted on the back base so that it can plug into the roof. I think the main reason they did it that way was so if you wanted to, you could have Brawn's laser gun rotate 360 degrees left and right like the turret of a battle tank. But yeah, this the laser gun, the storage for it being the spare tire on top of the roof, this for me is confirmation that Brawn will eventually get repainted and retooled into Outback, just like the Legends class figures from 2016 and 2018. So for one last size comparison in vehicle mode, here's Studio Series 86 Brawn once again with his Titans Return earned version of Brawn, and of course here also is Outback from Power of the Primes. And this is one thing to note about Brawn, is that right here on the Legends class figures, Brawn originally didn't actually have a laser gun weapon at all, even though he used a laser gun in the G1 cartoon. On his Generation 1 action figure, Brawn didn't have a laser gun. A laser gun wasn't available until Outback was repainted and retooled from Brawn in 1986. So again, this just for me is confirmation that this figure will eventually get repainted and retooled into Outback, just like the Legends class figure. So I'm really hoping that if and when Brawn gets repainted into Outback, that it happens sometime soon. But yeah, I'm just really thrilled with how he came out. One minor nitpick that I have with Brawn in vehicle mode is that the Autobot logo on his chest, if you hold it up to a bright light, you can see it, but because there's no white outline, you can only see it at certain angles, and because it's a red Autobot logo on an olive green background, if you're colorblind, you're probably not going to be able to see it at all. But even if you aren't colorblind, it's very difficult to spot, especially on camera. So I just wish that they would have done the Autobot logo that Brawn has for his alt mode. I wish they would have given it either a white or silver background like they did with the Autobot logos here on Titans Return Brawn, and also with Power of the Primes Outback, where there's a background outline on it just to distinguish it. But yeah, that's just a very minor nitpick. But that's one thing about Brawn, Studio Series 86 Brawn, that if I had the chance to change, I would change it, is replace his Autobot logo with one that has either a white or silver background behind it. But yes, I just can't get over how amazing he is. So to wrap up the video, for the final proverbial question, do I recommend getting Transformers Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Brawn and adding him to your Transformers collection? Absolutely I do. You cannot go wrong having Studio Series 86 Brawn in your Transformers collection. He has become the best action figure of Brawn that has ever been released. That title was originally held for the last 6 years by Titans Return Legends Class Brawn, but yeah, this has now become the quintessential Brawn figure to have in your Transformers collection. I highly recommend you get this figure if you can find him. So thank you guys all so much. This has been the TFN Geek, and until next time, you guys, stay safe, stay healthy, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.